In case you don't know, on the channel here on YouTube focuses mainly on old style traditional martial arts and conditioning training. Alright, we're going to do some, as part of the live stream training today, thanks a lot to all the Patreon guys and all the people that support the channel. Part of the live stream training today, I'm a bit achy from some other training that I've done, so we're going to do some fundamental stance training. I used to have a lot of problem with stance training years ago because my body alignment wasn't right, my flexibility. This is the main thing with stance training. You can practice martial arts for years, as I did, but you can have incorrect flexibility, the wrong stretched muscles, and your stance stuff will always be a problem. Okay, so let's start our stance stuff. So we must remember lengthen and strengthen and flexibility for stances, and also stances are not about real martial arts or real kung fu stances, whatever you call them. They're not about so much about muscle, they're about the body and the bone supporting itself. So let's get into them. All right, so we start with the prerequisite flexibility. And then every now and then I'll come forward and check out if there's any comments or whatever. I might have to adjust the camera a little bit there so you can see the legs though. I don't know on the, yeah, there we go. So let's get into the stance work. All right, first off, split leg stance. Yeah, so this is a really good stance to start with. Really underutilized for training, yeah, and this also starts to develop the difference between the forefoot and the back. You might see in like some really old like TV programs that Shaolin standing like this in the split leg stance. Just this starts to develop your self-supported structure. So it's a bit yogic in its ways, but when you're training your stances, I want you guys to think of like bridges, yeah? Like, you know, like bridges that cars run over. So if you can imagine this is the split here, and if there's forces acting on my hip, it's going to press out equally between these two, and it's going to support itself. So yeah, once again, like real kung fu and real martial arts stances are not about, they're not about so much muscles, just muscles all the time. It's about flexibility, and it's about physics of alignment, yeah? So that's why I could do, you know, a posture like this, which a lot of people would find difficult, and I can sort of stand like this all day, because I'm using the alignment of my bones. I'm not trying to lock myself into a muscular structure that you see a lot of people do, and then they shake and stuff like this. So first, what I always prescribe with stance work is go a bit wider than you would usually be comfortable, and go a bit wider more. Obviously, this is the whole big stance debate. So you train the stances big so that you get the flexibility, and you get the lengthen and strengthen, you get the yogic benefits, and then in real life, you would obviously shorten them down, yeah, if you were to use them, and you would get all the strength. You've got all the strength and mobility, yeah, you've got the full mobility. So again, we have to remember the difference between training postures, training stances, and the ones that you would sort of be fighting in or using, yeah? All right, so split leg stance. So yeah, easy. So hold this. This is part of your intro stance. Great for any level of martial arts, even if you don't have any. Feet, toes pretty much pointing straight forward, heels out, and you press the weight forward. So they always say in Chinese, they always say like, oh, in Japanese, is feet grip the floor. Well, no, your feet will never be able to grip the floor if all your weight's back on your heels. So this is another thing people need to know, is you lean slightly forward. Yeah, just ever so slightly, and I don't mean lean like this with your back. You lean the whole orientation of your body so that the weight starts to go onto your toes a little, on your forefoot, and you feel your own natural weight pressing, and the heel becomes light. So later on, when you train more advanced stance work, you may or may not know this within your kung fu and martial arts, you'll be doing your normal stances, and it looks to everyone like you're standing them normally, but like actually here, I've got all the weight on my toe, my forefoot, and you could put a piece of paper under my heels and it would slide under my heels. The heels were almost slightly raised off the ground, but not quite, but the weight is just not on the heels, yeah? And this is like a bit of a Shaolin stance training trick. You'd see the grey adorned warrior monks using something like this, a bit more advanced training method. Yeah, because we all think the stances are like heels dug into the floor. Well, no, not necessarily. Weight forward, all right? So anyway, split leg. So let's go split leg. And just stand, widen it a bit, and find your flexibility. You might stand like this. And I know stance is a very boring topic, but when you get into your martial arts a lot, they become one of the most important topics. I spent 3 months training my stance work alone, and in sort of folklore times of martial arts and early karate, you always used to hear the saying, the old masters used to say, you should spend 3 months training your stances only. Yeah. Now, in case you're wondering, 3 months is the time. Like 3 months is a common time in kung fu and in martial arts. It's usually the time it takes for your tendons and your bones and tendons to become aligned correctly. So that's what it's about. It's not about training your muscles for 3 months because you'll just get muscular injury. It's about giving your body that 30, 60, 90 day time frame to work. All right, so we got some comments here. So anyway, thanks for the thumbs up, people. Hello, everyone. Sensei Emmett, Mabu, yes, not quite Mabu yet, Sensei Emmett. Hello, sir. Sensei Emmett, a good, long-time supporter on Patreon. Dips in, dips out. Very kind. Thank you very much. So yeah, so split leg stance. Yeah, so first we're starting with split leg stance, and we're talking about how stances should be self-supporting. So you guys should be able to see bridge. Yeah, like if I was a bridge and you cut the top of my body off, you put weight here, it would distribute equally. And this is before we even begin pulling our muscles up, like bow arrow style, yeah? Like pulling. So that's a whole nother topic that you can use to train the stances, to work dynamic tension into the muscles. So you're not just standing there doing like this, yeah? But anyway, if we get time, we'll go into that. But yeah, split leg stance, and remember everyone, weight, the whole orientation of the body. So split leg stance, and if I'm like this, my weight's on my heels, so the whole orientation of the body is slightly forward, and this puts the weight onto the forefoot and the toes. You'll feel your toes digging in. So like you say, the old saying in martial arts is you always try and grip the floor with your toes. Well, really, you actually can't do that. What they were trying to convey, you can, but it never quite matters. What they're trying to convey, if you think about it in translations, with the whole idea of feet grip the floor, if you study into your martial arts, you realize it's not feet grip the floor, it's lean until your feet are pushed into the floor. Yeah, that's the little secret. And from that position, you can sit. From that lean, it's not a lean, because my back is still straight and the body's still straight, but from that different center of gravity, a little bit forward, that's where our stance work really comes from, yeah? I've got a big comment here. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up, guys. Sensei Emmett says, loved your course on Udemy, Brett. I went through the full course and now just keep going back as it's a reference and training. Excellent course. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Emmett, mate. Emmett means that I had course. Yeah, which is the only thing I've ever put out in these 10 years. All right, so anyway, split leg. So the split leg stance is good as well, because now you guys, if you stand in it, it's not just the splits. But if you stand in it, you should feel if you've got any muscular imbalances in your hips and your legs. You know, you might stand in it and this feels a bit tight, and you might crouch this way, this one feels tight. You might crouch this way, this one feels tight. So you can start to work on yourself. You know, this is where you see Qigong movements like this. Yeah, and all this is stretching, yeah, stretching. So obviously, look, I'm pulling my weight forward. I'm locking the muscle and the leg into an orientation, and then I'm pulling. Yeah, but obviously they use the hands to emphasize that movement, yeah, because also a different understanding of how the body works in the past, yeah. And it gives you a little bit of extra stretch when you put your hands, but equally you could just be doing this, like Western style. You don't actually have to be doing any kind of sort of martial artsy movement, yeah? But if you do, it's good, silk reeling, circular movements, it's still good, yeah? So already here, we're just basically on the first posture, split leg stance, whatever you want to call it in any martial art. And there's already little bits and pieces inside of it that we can look at and train, yeah? That also go with your flexibility, yeah, because stances and flexibility live in the same domain, yeah. There's only one reason why Shaolin monks, why whoever developed kicking, because kicking isn't easy. The only reason you would do it is because you find it easy, because you know they in the ancient days, when Bodhidharma came to Shaolin Temple and they were monks and not really warrior monks, or before the monks were warrior monks, they did all the stretching, they were nice and flexible, they didn't eat meat which made them more flexible, and kicking was just an easy thing for them to do. And they had, you know, they were very nimble and limber, and they could bend down like this, and you know, they didn't have problems moving. And the same with the Chinese, with the squatting, they don't have any problem squatting like this, whereas us Westerners do. So we've got to work a little bit harder. And even then, back in those days, and the Okinawans, if you take it to traditional karate, they still say you have to work 3 months on your stances. 3 months they would take. People like Gishin Funakoshi, Masutatsu Oyama, Gojen Yamaguchi, the terrible pronunciations of the names, but these people would take in students, and their teachers, they would tell their students how their teachers would spend 3 months. You wouldn't do anything but stances. It's crazy. Anyway, I'll check the comment, then we'll move on. Ah, yes. Me Marisho says eating less makes you more flexible. Well, it's not so much eating less, but if you sustain yourself on a vegetarian diet, which I don't, but they've proven that your tendons and ligaments lack a certain protein that makes them tighter. Yeah, so they will be more flexible. They will be looser and more flexible. So in other words, if you're a Shaolin monk living in the mountains, or a monk or whatever, you're practicing your kung fu and you're living on a simple Buddhist meal of vegetarian stuff, you will naturally be more flexible anyway. So once again, it's easier for you to do the stretches, the Tong Ji Gong, which is the stretching sets that you guys might see in Shaolin, you know, where the kid sits down, he puts his leg behind his head and bends forward and bends backwards, and there's a whole little stretching set that I can't do because it's too flexible. Can do some of it. So anyway, so recap on split stance. When you train split stance, when you train all your stances, it's about bones and structure, yeah? Not about so much about muscles. Bone structure and tendons lengthen and strengthen. Muscles come later, yeah? Metaphorically, they come later. Of course, they're working right now. You can use them more or less. In this position that I've been standing now, whatever, how many minutes, the muscles are pretty much relaxed. Yeah, they're a little bit tight in places, but that's it. It's a lengthen, strengthen posture. Lean slightly forward, your orientation is slightly forward, and this is activating your forefoot, not so much your heel. And then later on in your advanced stance training as well, you do your stance. You can do your stances just on your forefoot with your heel, the weight like 90% off your heel, like 98% off your heel. And you might be like, well, no, this is not a thing. But then I'll take you to the plum blossom poles. So you guys know what I mean. You see the Shaolin, the balance on the poles. You do your forms on the poles, yeah. Or you can lay some bricks down and you do forms on those. And if you've ever stood on a plum blossom pole, the big poles that you do the forms on, if you've ever stood and worked on those poles, you will see that you can't actually stand on it with the heel of your foot. Yeah, you actually have to, you might not realize, but you actually have to stand on it with your forefoot, with the front portion of your foot. It goes the same for like doing any kind of balancing usually. Yeah, so that's certainly on those poles, because it's like this big middle portion of your foot, your heel isn't really much in play. If you tried to stand on them on your heel, you'd fall backwards. So that's the kind of feeling already we're trying to engage when we're using our stances, is that sort of cat forward feeling. But anyway, we'll leave that. That's another topic. So anyway, split stance. Yeah, so have a look at it, try it yourselves, check out. I know it's a simple, stupid little thing. It's not the splits. It is, but it isn't. But check yourself from here. See if you've got any imbalances. Go down to here, and of course keep those heels strict on the. Keep those feet in line on the floor, and then check here. Okay, I can reach here. I've got flexibility here. I can bend here. I've got flexibility here. Okay, I can do this. If on one side you've got a stiffness, you have to work that out. Yeah, and that goes in with the whole qigong and the health and the yoga side of things. Because if you work out that imbalance, it will straighten your hips, which will correct your spine, which will take the load off your central nervous system, blah, blah, blah. You can go and see a chiropractor, they'll tell you the same thing. And that's how doing these stances, I know we're going a little bit into the qigong side of things, but that's how doing stances correctly and working them can actually help improve your organism, yeah? Instead of I like bodybuilding, but imagine you do some bodybuilding. Like I was doing some chest with one of my friends the other day, and then your muscles all tight and sore and locked, and this is the opposite of that. It's lengthening everything, it's getting the alignment right, it's training the muscles in the right way. So it'd be like you do your triceps, you do your biceps, you do your triceps. So you don't overdevelop your triceps and biceps, and it pulls on your body differently, blah, 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 blah. You get what I'm saying? All right, all the time, you just breathe in through your nose, out through your nose, sometimes out through the mouth, which will cause a tightening of the lower abdomen. Yeah, the lower dantian. Yeah, and just that's the breathing you use, just chilled out breathing, all right? So we've stood like this for pretty long, and I've gassed on just about split stance for a little bit too long, so I apologize. And thanks for the thumbs up, everyone. Okay, so move on to the next one, all right? So we've done our split stance, of course. We check it. Excellent. Real boring stuff, I know. Real boring stuff. Now you press down into a wide horse stance. Yeah? Like a wide horse stance. Yeah? And again, this is a training stance. Yeah? So, yep, we check. And you'll see the better, when you check your split stance, the better you can do your split stance, the better you'll be able to do your horse stance, yeah? Now there's a lot of different variations of horse stance. What we're not doing right now is the sort of back dead straight, balance the thing on your leg like this horse stance, because I actually don't, not yet anyway, I don't fully agree with that version of horse stance for training people when they start, because usually in the West we don't have the flexibility. So we just end up getting really sore muscles from it. So what I like to do with people when I'm training them, when I'm telling them, is I tell them to do wide split stance and then let it naturally fall into what I would call a bit of a extra wide horse stance or a sumo squat stance, but the feet would usually be slightly different. And that helps people, Westerners, develop the flexibility in these side tendons here. Well, I don't know, whatever you call them, but the hamstrings and everything like that. You'll feel it if you do it. If you do this, your normal splits. So as a guide for you, you want your feet as wide as your. You want your feet as wide as your wrists. Yeah, so that's a good, and which is a bit annoying for me because my arms are long. But you want your feet as wide as your wrists. Yeah, and then it's a simple case of pushing your orientation forward, and then just sinking, and you sink again. No, back straight. Yes, spine straight. Back slightly. It's straight, but spine is straight. That's more important. So don't worry so much about back straight. I know your kung fu teacher will be whipping you with a whip, but remember this is your own training here. So don't worry so much about back straight as in orientation. No, this is not good. You won't develop your muscles correctly. You worry about spine straight. So you see a more natural lean as if you're sitting down on a stool. And you instead of trying to squat down into no space, so here I'm trying to squat down into like an area which is a foot. I'm trying to project myself forward. But you might not have the flexibility and muscle development to do that yet. So instead, we're going to squat down into space behind us. Yeah, just a little bit. But our back, if you put a sticker on my spine, your back is more or less straight. The spine. That's the important thing. Forget about the back. What's the back? The back is the whole of your back. And maybe this stick will help demonstrate. So when you're like this, so you see I'm lent, but if you can see here, I'll place this on my spine. My spine is straight. If I was bending, you would be like this. But this is the main thing, this spine of yours is straight, yeah? Not like rolled or whatever, see, or whatever, this is weak, this is strong, yeah? Yeah, and the orientation isn't like this. So interesting, look at that, look how the tailbone tucks. When I think my back is straight, my tailbone's tucked under. And the orientation of the middle spine is actually going up that way. But that's a different thing, and we use that. You use that in sanction and stuff like that. You use that for power generation because you chamber the spine. Anyway, but yeah, well, thanks a lot. So you guys have seen that. So anyway, so that's one of my biggest tips for horse stance. A lot of people say to me, oh, how can I train my horse stance? I say, well, train it wider. Because your sensei, your kung fu sensei, and I've been training horse stance like this for, for I think it's like 19, 20 years now. And hopefully you see how easy it is. People get hung up on this. They get hung up on this. No, my knees have got to be, they've got to be this wide apart, and I've got to be like this, and I've got to be seated right like this, and I've got to stay like that, and I've got to put a thing across my legs. Well, that horse stance has its place, but it's not the only, like that. I suppose you could say that's a very strict horse stance. But traditionally, that particular horse stance was actually trained a little bit higher. But now they train it, and you see them on the Plum Blossom Soles, and the Shaolins are so good at doing that. So, I mean, the effort. But you can't, well, from my experience, you can't start out doing that. If I got you or me years ago to start, and I put you in that high stress position, like wall sit horse stance, where your feet are not really only a shoulder width apart, you cook all your muscles, trust me. And if you're someone like me who had imbalances in your body anyway, you'd be cooked. So this way is the way I use, the way I show people, and I've done some old videos on it. which are years old, but a lot of people have come back to me saying, like, this really helped my horse stance. Because for once, I wasn't doing a Jake mace. I got nothing against Jake mace, but I wasn't doing a Jake mace and like putting, you know, standing in a strange way and putting something on my legs and just kind of, it's almost like an ego thing. It's not ego, but it's like I want to go as low as I can and I want to stay as straight as I can and I want to stand like this, I want to stand like that, and now I'm training hard. Well, no, now you're just overstraining all your muscles, because you've got to be able to stay in this posture for ages, yeah? And there are ancient accounts and folklore accounts of like Shaolin monks and masters and this and that who just stay in their stances for hours and hours and hours. Now, what's more realistic, how do you stay in a stance for hours and hours? If your alignment is correct, if you're not overstraining your muscles, yeah, and it's a self-supporting structure. That's how you stay in your stance for hours. They're more realistic than you've trained your muscles to stay in that stance for hours, which does happen. We've seen it. I know it's true, but we're gonna work on the less fantastical, lengthen and strengthen, self-supporting structure method. Once we've got that, we can then take ourselves to a position of insane Shaolin, being able to sleep, standing up, you know, being able to stand in a really, what do you call it? A really strict horse stance posture for extended periods of time, you know, that sort of thing. Then you can do those sorts of things, yeah? I'm not saying I can do them, but then you can do them. You need the prerequisite flexibility, otherwise you'll never get there, alright? It's a pain in the ass, but it's true. If I could give anyone one piece of advice, it's just become more flexible, everything will get easier. That's it, that's a simple advice. Alright, so, let's see. Spirit, mind, body. Research has shown that foods associated with vegetarian dishes contain essential amino acids, and educated vegan diet should not adversely impact your protein intake. Well, there we go. Yeah, no, it shouldn't. You're right. But I am reliably informed that there is a particular amino acid or some kind of thing that makes your tendons more tighter or tighter than usual. And that only exists in like meat stuff. And people who don't eat meat, it allows them to be more flexible because they miss this particular protein. But that's what I've heard on the matter. But yeah, but who knows? Research is changing all the time. Sometimes people find, what's the word? Find ideas that fit their own narrative. So maybe I'm doing that or whatever, but I heard that and I was like, oh, that makes sense. So, you know, I think it sounds like a realistic thing. But have I checked it up on Google and researched it and spoke to scientists about it? No. All right, so, geez, my chest's so tight that's another reason I wanted to do this stance training today, because I did a chest training session with one of my friends, and honestly, like he's into his bodybuilding. I don't do bodybuilding, but I did a bodybuilding workout with him, and I can barely open my arms. So I want to get things flexible again. So anyway, yeah. So a wider horse stance than you would now. Now then, there's the toes forward, but also you can now open yourselves up into another stance where your toes and feet go out. I like to call it 12 and 3. Yeah, so that's how you think about it. Like normal horse stance, your feet, toes are just pointing forward, but also because we're training the many ways that the human body moves, there's the old 12 and 3 sumo squat stance as well. Yeah. Yep. And that way you can see my toes. I'll point my toes at you guys like you're 12 o'clock. My toes are 12. This is used a lot in traditional karate. But my toes are 12 here, and pretty much You guys are 12 and that's sort of 3 or maybe a little bit past 3. Yeah, so that's another swap. And again, you can open that out wide. Yeah, and already it's great. This stance training gets that breath going, gets the body going, gets the heat in the body going. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. So let's chain those into a little bit of a set that you guys can easily practice at home. Simple. Yeah. So feet go to, my chest. Feet go to as wide as your wrists. However you want to get there, you can get there the old foot way, foot walking. But I don't so much like that because I think one of my feet does different traveling to the other. I just go like this. Yeah, feet about that. Yeah, then take them out a little bit more. Sink into that. Yeah. Let the weight come forward, not the back, but the orientation of the whole body. Like you're standing on the precipice of something, on the edge of a cliff, and you're like, ooh, just peering over. Not too much, because then your balance is over, but so much so that you want the weight to just start raising off the heels of it. Yeah? And this gives you that orientation, this slightly tilted orientation. And it allows things to just open up a bit and get relaxed. Yeah, so stand in this. So, there we go. Now, easy from there. So you've sunk down into this. You've done your split stance. Sorry, I jumped ahead. You do that in your split stance, you get your orientation right, you lean a bit. Then you sink into your horse stance. And already the blood starts to flow. And then obviously we easily travel into our Mabu, bow arrow stance. Bow arrow stance, whatever you want to call it. I get the names mixed up now. Mabu is Pubu, is it? No. Gongbu. There we go, I think it's Gongbu. Oh, terrible. Anyway, who cares? Now again, up to you. Don't want to make things too complicated, but you can experiment from weight on your forefoot. Yeah? Again, you don't have to have your hands like this. You can have them like this. I'm choosing a Tai Chi, Qigong alignment form for my hands, just because it sets my hips. Yeah, it sets my hips, because the shoulder sets my hips. Yeah? And then it's actually from the 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin, the 4 parts exercise. Yeah, is one of the preparatory exercises in there. And it's pretty much just doing these little things. It's similar to the 8 pieces of the brocade, which is the Bar Dwajing. But I pronounced it terribly, but you get what I'm saying. Alright, so again, practice. Now, one thing with this, which is like your classic martial arts fighting stance, people have a lot of problem holding it because they lack the flexibility. But if you're holding this stance and it feels wrong, like you see a lot of people over doing this in karate, just take one leg back. Initially it'll be harder, but it'll start to build your center of gravity here. So I know from my karate friends and stuff like that, when you read about these, it's like weight is 60% on this leg and a little bit on this leg. I say no to that, no. Yeah, that is incorrect, yeah, in my world. So what I propose instead of that is that when you are in this stance, your gongbu, when you are in this stance, you do not want weight more here, you do not want weight more here, unless you put it there yourself, yeah? In other words, you want a 180 degree or 360 stance. I do not want this to, like every time I do this, I don't want my weight to be here and this is all that exists and my muscle is locked. I do not want that, yeah? If you stand in it correctly, yeah, that's a slightly different form there, but if you stand in it correctly, like the yoga posture, your center of gravity and your weight will be here, down, not here. That's different, here. So when you do your stance, and maybe only people who've been practicing martial arts for a long time will appreciate this, and appreciate the nuances of the Kung Fu. but the difference is phenomenal. Yeah, it's like a lightning moment in your mind. Yeah, when you stop doing this and you start thinking about the weight being there. Yeah, there. Then if I want it to be there, it can. If I want it to be back here, it can. And it's easy. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, it's easy. Because I'm not already locked into my leg. And the same on the other side. Yeah, this is where the idea of PUBU or bow arrow comes from. Yeah, but in my mind, it's because the legs are drawing, or this is an exercise you can do, the legs are drawing up. So they're not, your legs can be relaxed, like for instance, you could put socks on and you can relax your legs and they will push out. They'll just slide away from you. But you can put socks on and stand neutrally, then you're fine. But you could put socks on as well and you could pull in with each leg. And that activates these muscles on the bottom. And that's another great way to train that strength in your legs through static dynamic tension. Yeah? So you breathe. So you imagine the bow and arrows here, down here on the floor. Yeah? Not here, down here on the floor. And you're drawing it. You're drawing it like this. Yeah? But you're drawing it with your legs. And your legs are tightening here and tightening here underneath. Yeah? But the center of gravity is down there. And this way, if you throw something at me, or you wrestle me or whatever, even though I'm in a wide stance that looks like my weight is all forward here, it's just like me standing like this. Yeah? Yeah? So, for instance, I've got my boxing bag here. Hopefully I don't hurt my back doing this. But, for instance, we can hold this, yeah? And we can go from there, to there, to there, to there, to there, to there, to there, yeah? To there, to there, and the orientation is, you can see that the body, the weight is down in the middle. The weight isn't over on this side of the leg, because you can automatically see that you see the body behaves differently. You can't cheat that, yeah? It just does. Now, does this matter to brand new people to Kung Fu? Oh, probably not. But if you learn your stances that way and you practice them that way, they will actually serve you better. Yeah, and a lot of people I know who've trained Kung Fu for many years, you know, do these things without thinking about it. All I'm doing is I'm just thinking about it because I'm just training. And what do you have to do when you're training on your own in like a field somewhere, is over the years, you think about it and you grasp it and you go, that's the little secret, I'll tell the guys. That's the mechanic, I'll tell the guys, and see what they think about it, right? So, excellent. So, but also what I want to say is, obviously, all the other variations of your stance exist. I'm not saying this is the one you do every time. Yeah, all the variations of your stance exist, but that's it. Your stance, I hate bouncing, but your stance should be a relaxed, self-supporting structure. You know, it's like this stance, this flat stance, or whatever you want to call it. It exists in so many martial arts. You see it drawn in pictures, and people draw it. You see some people going from like any kind of stance to sort of this, to that, to And it's just funny because it's like, no. All that is just the converse of this, obviously. Like, you know, it's like, it's a second in time. You're forward, you're fighting, boom, you might dodge. That's that one, yeah? So why do we bother training these silly stances? Because, you know, when we're using our movements, we might need to dodge something and move into that big position, wrestle something, and it comes in handy, yeah? So yeah, but anyway. So yeah, you should be able to easily slide between the two. So forward, so you got bow arrow, weight there, boom, fighting. The orientation can also be this here, yeah, so that's a whole nother kettle of fish, but this is the same stance. That's another thing, because you learn it in books and stuff, or a lot of people do, or it's been translated from books, you see the stance drawn and everyone thinks, okay, that fights this way, I'll fight that way. This one fights there, I'll fight that way. But obviously, you can do this normal bow arrow stance, and you can have your fighting orientation here, yeah? Of course, there's the groin to worry about, which is why we tend to have it here. But equally, in a split second, dum dum dum, that will help you, the orientation here will help you move and do whatever it is you need to do in this, whatever you want to call it, orientation, and not this orientation, yeah? Tactically, that's the best, but this might, in a second, also be the best, yeah, for other things, yeah? Other movements that you might want to do, okay? Yep, or throws, or something like that, yeah? Yeah. There we go, I clicked out my back there. Alright, so yeah, what have we got? Split. And yeah, hopefully, you know, we've been talking a while now, and we've been holding a stance. Some tips for your practice stances, almost think of it like yoga. Make sure this back hip is locked flat, yeah, and practice it there, and get the understanding of how it works. Move to the middle, breathe, don't so much worry about your feet, just worry about things being wide, and then same on the other side. And if you feel like you're too much this way, just pull back. Lock that hip. You can put your hand here, which is an argument about where this came from. Yeah. Everyone's like, why do people do this? Where's this come from? But in traditional training and in old yoga and stuff, it's used to remind you to keep your hip locked back, because if you roll it forward, you change the posture. Yeah. So there. So hold your stance like this. When you get tired, you can level it out. Now it becomes a different stance, but you can rest, breathe, you can go back into it, you can go back into the middle, breathe, yeah, you can go back this way. And every time, instead of raising, because you want to raise, widen, yeah? So like now you go to the middle and you're like, oh, your body's like, I want to raise, I need to raise. Just go to this posture and go back, yeah? And stretch your arms out flat. And just breathe. And then when you start to get a bit tired in this, because the muscles aren't actually that tight at all, when you start to get a bit tired in this, then pull the floor, pull in with the legs, like you're trying to pull this foot here and pull this one here. Don't forget the back heel's flat like this, and the toes like this. Yeah, that's how the feet are, yeah? Use your hands to guide you. If you start turning, it becomes a different posture, yeah? That's one you can also train, yeah? I like to do that one a bit on the forefoot, a bit on the forefeet, yeah? It becomes like a really, really traditional, Shaolin style, pubu, not pubu, gongbu, sorry, yeah? Because you often see them with that leg splayed back, yeah? But then again, if you don't have the flexibility, you'll never be able to get the power and stability in that position that you need. Yeah, that's why train them wide. Yeah, train them wide. Yep, and also another good thing is you're training your stances and you're training your stances. You're getting an awesome workout. You're making your legs stronger. But there's some sweating. And now you wonder. So this is great for your iron body training now, because I've literally been standing still in a room. Now your blood's flowing, and you've got good alignment. Thank you for the thumbs up. Now's when you can start your iron body training. Yeah, you can do your bones. Yeah, you can do your body. Yeah, your alignment's good. You can do your body. Yeah, do your body, do your body, do your head. Yeah, but I don't advocate striking of the head. There's a different way to train iron head. That's a lot better. But and you see the alignments are all good. Yeah, if the alignments are good, then the forces travel through your skeleton. If the alignments are bad, the forces bounce around inside your body and cause internal damage. Yeah, that's the way it works. And then you can use these flat postures to train the shins. Nice to train the shins. Another flat posture, train the shins. And you're getting a good conditioning workout. Train the legs, train the elbows. Yeah, this is just a bamboo beater. There's so many ways of training, but that's just one example of how doing the stances correctly will benefit you. Alright, so okay, shake things out, because we've been down there for a long time. I'll have a look at some of the comments now. Another good thing is if you're doing that, if you're widening at the back, you're creating a nice strong thing for your knee there. Can you see how nothing's over the toe? It's not even straight down. It's nice reflective forces, yeah? Yeah, good for kicking and stuff. And again, I'll put a caveat on that. We train wide so that we train these wide so that we can then shorten them, and we'll have all the power, all the strength, and we'll be good. So I'll have a look at some of the comments. I'll just stretch out one of my legs actually. So we have a look at the comments. Yep. And the cool thing is you don't have to be Mr. Flexible. I must admit, I've been very lazy with my flexibility. But the Kung Fu holds. The stance, the memory, the stances they hold if they've been developed in the right way. Yep. And that's another advice I will give people, is if you're ever having problems with your martial arts stances, your Kung Fu stances, whatever, just open up a yoga book and practice a couple of the basic poses and postures in there, and you'll get your flexibility good. You'll do a lot of good for yourself. And this is now chi, yeah, or you want to call it chi or energy. It can be whatever you want it to be, but on rudimentary terms at our basic level, so we're going to say basic. If you're basic and you're starting off and you're thinking about chi and energy, your mind's going to be thinking about chi and energy for the rest of your life. You're never going to get it. Yeah, you start with what's real. Yeah, you stand like that. It causes hormonal and stuff changes in the body, because the legs are recruiting a big muscle. It's releasing testosterone eventually if you train it enough. It's getting one of the biggest muscles in your body worked. The fire, as they call it, in Kung Fu, the fire, the kidney, meridians, everything, the fire's going, yeah? The back heats up, the body heats up. That's your chi. Then, because you're having to hold these stress positions and you're having to breathe through it, That's you controlling your breathing. That's you cultivating your energy. And then yes, over years of doing that, you know, you may be able to channel it into something else, or there's a special technique or whatever some master teaches you. That's fine. But there's a lot of kung fu people out there. There's a lot of martial arts people out there who just forget the basic, simple bit. Yeah, don't waste your time thinking about energies when your body's not even warm. Yeah, because the energy is not going to help you when your body's all cold. That's why everyone says, you see Sifu Yang Li, a lot of the older Shaolin instructors who do give people knowledge, they say, work your body out, get it warm, get it hot, get it endurance, then you can do iron body training, you can do all your training. Anyway, I'll just see some comments that we've got from people here. So sorry, because we missed a good few. So let's go. What have we got? Someone says, you are a tick cop. I don't know what that is. Sardine man. Michael McCormick, hello Michael, some good comments here. He says, yes, there's a collagen that's found most abundantly and naturally in pork. That is what builds and tightness and strength of tendons. However, it can be taken via dissolvable supplements. Yes, good work. It can now. Many rock climbers who usually have red meat restrictive diets get it in this way to strengthen their tendons. Oh, excellent. So there we go. But our talking about that was on about not having it so that you've got the flexibility. But that's not what I do. I just eat meat. Yeah, and I have to suffer with not being as flexible. So Jobo 1983 says, you've got the strength and combat applications down, but do you comprehend that these stances do build internal energy? People held horse stance for long periods for more than just strength. Yes, well that's what Jobo 1983, that's finally what we were just talking about there, is the internal side of things that I was just going on about. Because I don't really talk about energies and cheese much, but obviously being a kung fu man, it's in my nature and it's in my learnings. But I like to preach, as you will, to people about the physical side of things, maybe physiological, and then any kind of energies they can choose to believe in maybe afterwards or at the same time. But it's like yin and yang. I believe if you're trying to just do the energy and you don't have the physical, you will never get the energy. Yeah, do you get what I'm saying? And the energy alone will not save you. Yeah, if you're just do you get what I mean? Like, that's why if you're just a yoga monk and you sit around and you kind of try and cultivate chi and energy and life force, you're not going to get, you're going to wither away, your muscles won't be strong, so you need to practice, you need to train, etc., etc. But good one. Horse is a more powerful version of the hand zazen meditation. You do it relaxed like a meditation, it will create a flow of energy that will go straight up to your head. Yes, and again, when, like we were saying before, when you're standing in these self-supporting structures, so sometimes I do some live trainings or lessons or whatever you want to call them, my trainings on Qigong and stuff like that, and that's the same thing. It's more about body alignment than it is about anything else, and breathing. But with body alignment comes breathing. Yeah. So you stand in the position, that's all you have to do. And that's how you know if someone actually trains it or not, because the only way they can do it is if they do it. There's loads of people I see online and stuff like this, especially Tai Chi. Look, with Tai Chi, I hate to say this to people, but because it's so much about body alignment, if your legs aren't right, it's not right. Yeah? If your legs aren't right, it's not right. You know, if unless you've gone through the basic stages and built it up like how we're showing, or in another way, yeah. If you see someone standing up like this, just doing upright standing Tai Chi, like minimal moving and trying to cultivate energies, there's no energy. They're not cultivating anything, yeah, unless they've done the fundamentals. And then when they teach it to you and you start doing this, you're not cultivating anything. You're only going to be cultivating your Tai Chi if you're freaking low in your correct posture. You know, you're doing your movements. Yeah, you're going through your movements in the correct way. Yeah, and you're doing things with the correct alignment. You're getting the correct like muscles stretched and stuff like that. That's the only way you're doing your Tai Chi. That's why. And I'm not the greatest at it anyway, so I'm not pretending to be, but that's why it looks so particular. You see the Chinese guys doing it, you see them doing it. It's particular because it's scientific. Yeah, and I don't mean like Western scientific, but it is, because it's all about body alignment. And all our bodies are pretty much the same, and sometimes they're a little bit different, but if you get your generic human skeleton, it can bend in this way and that way and this way. And that's the kind of Tai Chi and Qigong, is them unlocking the best postures to move the skeleton in that particular way to get the benefits, blah, 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 straighten the spine, all that rubbish. But anyway, this wasn't meant to be about that. We're just doing our stance training, basic stance training. Ooh. So that's good because I can feel it on the legs, but I don't feel it over. One of my problems when I started martial arts is I used to overuse these front muscles, and it caused me a lot of problems. It caused me back problems until I sorted my stances and my flexibility out. We got another comment there. Jaber says, fair enough, building Jing and tendon strength is very important. You can build energy without first building the structure and the strength. I just wasn't sure if you knew about the Qi cultivating. Oh, yes, yep, my friend. But no, thanks for mentioning it. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm lying and I didn't, but yeah, I mean, I tend to, Danny Crane, I tend to stick on the physical side of things, and then I keep any kind of energy stuff in my mind, because the moment you start talking about energies and stuff, or even like overly trying to focus on them, it almost like makes it disappear, and also makes people just think you're talking shit. You know, just like they tune in and you're there talking about, oh, I'm cultivating my chi. And that's the thing that annoys me the most when I see people. I go onto a channel, but it doesn't matter, but if I go onto a channel and I see a video on YouTube or whatever, and someone's like, yeah, I'm cultivating my energy, but they're doing all the fundamentals wrong, or mind you, look, it's a bit arrogant of me to say wrong, okay? Because it's my opinion, but we all know that there are core fundamentals of the way things look. So you see someone doing the movements and you're like, nah, it doesn't look right. And then they're talking about cultivating chi and this and that. And it's a shame, I find it a shame, because personally I'm like, man, it's not gonna work. You could, you know, it'd be like trying to run your car on the wrong kind of fuel. You could do it or on crappy fuel, and you know, you can do it, it'll run, but it just won't run properly. You know, you'll get some benefits, but you'll probably get like just the exercise benefits. But anyway, should we go back onto some stance training? Yeah, 58 minutes. So pretty much like for people who've joined in there, and I know I've been moving, but I've been talking and standing in stances for like 45 minutes. And that's what I wanted to show. Well, I didn't know it was going to go for this long, but that's what I wanted to show, is that my legs should be completely cooked. You know, your muscles can only endure for so long. I mean, some of it is a testament to training. It shows you that I'm not bullshitting you and I actually train. But then I don't need to really say that, because you can go back 10 years on my channel. You'll see me doing the same crap. So yeah. So, anyway, I'll tell you what, now let's put a weights vest on. Yeah, come on, let's make it fun. 58 minutes in. So you guys might see the belt, so you might wonder why's he got the belt on. Well, like in Chinese medicine and stuff like that, keeping the kidneys warm is a real it's a real prize, you know, and it's more like the back muscles and the kidneys. Yeah, you could call it the back muscles, but it goes into Chinese medicine. But you know, the three heaters, the kidneys, keeping them warm. So that's why I always wear a belt or something like that to keep my hippies warm. Another thing is for the INY training and the breath training, when you're training, you push against the belt at times. You breathe in, you might brace and push out. It's just another way of training internal Kung Fu. And there's another thing, again, me doing this is also, all this stuff we've done is external and internal Kung Fu. And what is internal Kung Fu? No, it's not training magical energies. It's literally training the inside of your body. So we're training the muscles inside our legs, we're training the tendons inside our legs, we're training the breath, the lungs, the diaphragm. This is a more correct analysis of what internal Kung Fu is and because remember, everything's been translated. It's been translated from poetic culture, from stuff, and it's been translated from different science, different understanding of science and how the body works. So we always, again, and I'm saying in the basic sense of the term, when you start your Kung Fu or your martial arts, everyone gets lost in this world of internal, and it goes down that dark rabbit hole. But every time you hear internal, I want you to think, as in, I want you to try and focus on something real inside your body. What is it? Am I aligning my spine? Am I tilting my pelvis? Am I activating some PSOAS muscles? What am I doing? Yeah, not rather than internal as in energy. But I'm not saying the energy's not there, but that's something that comes, you don't think about it. All right, let's put this weight vest on. So you've got to be careful when putting weight vests on and stuff, because it changes your center of gravity and this and that and the next thing. But again, you can use it to train, and we'll just go over the beginning of it again, 58 minutes in. For anyone who wants to leave, you can just go to sleep. Maybe we'll find some new stuff. So there we go. So we're in our split stance. We lean forward. I'm doing this with my hands. I'm breathing in through my nose. We're rocking forward onto our forefoot. Yeah, and we're allowing. When you do that, you can allow your sacrum spine to tilt a little bit underneath, and it just gives it that little relaxation. It can go in there, and you can stand in this stance for a time. You can do your breathing, yeah, in through the nose, and your breathing will start naturally getting. So you don't have to stand here and count your breaths or anything, because as your body starts to struggle, even with this posture, your breathing will start to open. You'll feel like a diaphragm, like a lower breathing happening. Yeah, and I don't know how to explain it. It's obviously your lungs. There's not really a lower breathing, but it is. You will be breathing a different way. Yeah, it's I don't know. I could try and explain it. I've done in lots of other videos, but it's just a pain in the ass to explain. So look up reverse breathing or diaphragmal breathing, and you'll see what it's all about. Yeah, all right. So okay. Yeah. So we're gonna go here. Make sure we've got flexibility here. We're gonna go here. Make sure we've got flexibility here. Yep. Yep. We're gonna push here. Toes facing the sky. We're going to pull back. Yeah, okay, cool. We've got flexibility there. That's nice. We've got some flexibility there. We're going to pull forward. That's nice. Center of gravity, boom, in the middle, like I said. I can feel, because I've got the weights vest on, it's activating this top muscle a little bit more. So I pull back with this leg, and now it's centered everything off. Yeah, and now I'm center of gravity here. Yeah, and now again, rock forward, pull back. This opens up, the hips open up here, so that's why I can flex so low. Back to the middle, yeah. Stand for a little bit. When your muscles start to tire, bring, I don't know if you can see in the video, but the hips are orientated this way. Bring them under, tuck them under and push with these muscles. You can also pull, but keep the knees out. Yeah, almost as if you're gripping onto like a horse, literally. So you pull in, as if you're gripping something with your legs, but you don't pull your knees in. Yeah, okay, then relax it out, wobble a bit. Yeah. Rock just a little bit forward, because you'll probably need to open up the hip a little. Come back onto this leg, down, yep, up, nice. Yeah, you can push that foot back that way a bit for a second, only to allow you to then pull it and open the hip out even more. And again, I'm centered, yeah, I'm not leaning, I'm centered. Yep, and this looks like a silly yoga lesson, but it will do your stances wonders, obviously. I mean, not obviously, honestly. So stand like this for a time. This is where Qigong can come into it, and you can start aligning the other structures in your body, like with the cauldron, gripping the cauldron, opening up the shoulders, the other channels, the standing meditations. This is where you can do those things, okay? Straighten out. And again, in a nice self-supporting posture here. Straighten out. Push down. Yep. Back into the middle. Forward orientation. Try not to get overly stressed or like tense. If you find your muscles tensing up, try and change the orientation. Like there's micro things you can do, like in your legs. Like, oh yeah, I'll try and tilt my hips under a bit. And then that'll last for a little bit, and then that bit will get tired and you can release it a bit. And then you keep that for a bit more, and that bit will get tired, and you can grip as if you're squeezing something, you know? And that's the way it works. And then you get tired, and you change the legs. Yeah. And you can do the hands, and you're just opening up other channels in the body. And sweep, yeah. And the movements are not superfluous, they're not for nothing, yeah. They're for alignment purposes. Yeah, this is straining the tendons. Tightening the tendons has created tightening here, pulls things straight, and this is tucking the hip, but it's also keeping the hip in line here. Yeah, if it's here, it's different. Here, locked. Back. Yeah. You start to wobble, go wider. You start to wobble, roll onto your arch, forefoot. All right. So we're doing a lot of flat orientation stuff. So now just let your spine roll out. There we go. All right, so that was about 10 or so minutes with the weights vest on. Don't do too much with the weights vest. Because again, you don't want to undo your sort of flexibility and stuff. You'll see this in Indian Kung Fu, I call it Indian Kung Fu, Indian martial arts as well. Kalari Payat. There we go. And honestly, after that, after all that silly little stance jargon, you feel so energized. That's your chi. And you can do that in the morning. You can do it in a room. And what have all I've done? I've done like 3 postures, and I added in some other stretches in there. So that shows you as well why the bar doi jin, the 8 pieces of the brocade, that's why that works so nicely too. Because you can work out all your problems just by studying that. Yep. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, nice and easy. And hopefully there, send the stuff this way. Hopefully there we've trained our, thanks for the thumbs up by the way. Hopefully there we've trained our legs in like every direction. You see, to go through that and then stop and talk like this, it's kind of not beneficial. So what I should be doing there, taking in more breath, not in a closed room, doing some conditioning training, starting my workout or whatever. Obviously you don't have to do it for 72 minutes like we have, or maybe you have, probably just wherever everyone is. Let's see if we got any comments that I missed. Oh no, that's all good. Danny Crane says IBMA knuckle conditioning coming along. Yeah, Danny Crane's training some conditioning tips that I've been giving him as bone conditioning. So yeah, that's good. Yep, good old bone conditioning. Whew, so there we go. So there we go. So we've trained our legs. I know it's a bit of a thing because I've been talking as well, but we've trained our legs for Sensei Emmett says, what would you recommend for conditioning shins? We've trained our legs for like 73 minutes. I've been there for 73 minutes.